Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mr. Fiore. Today, while I am on retreat, you are going to listen to my voice as you take notes on the rest of the material in Section 3. We left off yesterday talking about a budding democracy, how democracy started to develop in Athens. We are going to pick up here today and take a little bit of notes. If you missed any notes during the presentation, you can watch this video on my website. Tomorrow when I'm in class, you will have the opportunity to ask me any questions that you may have had on the material we covered today. If you have not done so already, please take out your notebooks and turn to your notes section where we left off yesterday. Alright, let us begin. I understand some of you may have the notes on this slide already. Great. Some of you do not, so I'm going to begin with this slide today. And if you have them, just kind of sit tight, listen carefully, and follow along. Alright, so a budding democracy. A democracy that did not yet exist in Athens. In the 600s, Athens was ruled by nobles, nobles that owned land, aristocrats. There was an assembly of citizens that existed, but it had very few powers. And the government was pretty much like an oligarchy, very similar to what we talked about in Sparta yesterday. Athenians start to kind of get upset that only landowning nobles are making laws and voting on laws, and the farmers start to rebel. One thing that led them to rebel against these nobles was that a lot of these farmers owed the nobles money, and some of them sold themselves into slavery in order to pay their debts. Over and over, farmers are going to continue to demand for an end to all debts, along with provide some land to the poor people. And eventually, these two sides, after a couple years of rebellion, in 594 BC, a noble named Solon is going to be trusted, and he's going to cancel all the debt, and he's going to free all those farmers who became slaves. Alright, Solon is an individual, a noble that existed in Athens. It's going to take Athens in a direction towards a democracy. He did not develop a democracy, but he's a noble that understood both sides needed to be treated equally, and he created an assembly and law courts, and he allowed all male citizens to participate in the assembly and law courts. He also created a council of 400 wealthy citizens. All right, he did not allow poor farmers to serve on a council, which eventually leads to a problem because that was very unpopular among common people. After Solon, there were about 30 years of turmoil, very weak leadership in Athens, and a tyrant takes control of Athens. His name was Pisistratus. There's a key term you defined in Chapter 4, Section 2. Your Chapter 4, Section 2, key terms from your textbook. He won support of the poor because he started to divide up estates among landless farmers. However, he was a tyrant, and eventually he started doing things in his own interest and not necessarily thinking about the good of the common people as well as these landowning nobles. After Pisistratus, in 508 BC, there was a nobleman at the time when when Athens itself was very deeply divided. An Athenian nobleman by the name of Cleisthenes is going to take power in about 508 BC. He was born in the mid-500s, and he was a noble. Cleisthenes was a noble who takes power, and he wanted to end this deep divide between ordinary commoners and the wealthy noble rulers. He's going to take power, and he's going to introduce a new form of government called democracy. Cleisthenes becomes the founder of democracy in Athens. What did he do? How did he set up a democracy? He's going to give more powers to the assembly than any other leader in Athens has ever done. Some of the powers the assembly had was to vote on laws, debate matters openly, hear court cases, appoint army generals, and the most important element of the assembly was that in the debates there was a freedom of speech, which became very popular, and it was the citizens' most valued privilege, that they had the right to say whatever they wanted about anyone in the assembly or anything going on in Athens. There's a freedom of speech. He also created a council of 500 citizens, and these 500 citizens would serve on a council if basically they won the lottery. Right? The members of the council were chosen. Just want to highlight. Right, they were chosen by lottery each year. Now, sometimes citizens could serve on the council more than once, but they were not allowed to serve more than 2 years. All right, they couldn't serve no more than 2 non-consecutive years. So they couldn't serve consecutively, but they can serve 2 years on the council. And the council had a little bit more power than the assembly. The council could propose laws. They dealt with foreign city-states or countries. They oversaw the treasury in Athens. And basically the council and the assembly would work together to deal with issues going on in Athens. Now, the democracy that Cleisthenes set up, the idea of citizenship was not extended to everyone in Athens. Non-citizens were all women, foreign-born men, and slaves. All right, those 3 individuals were not given any rights. They could not go to the assembly. They could not serve on the council. On the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit more about what democracy in Athens is. But understand how important Cleisthenes' development of this new form of government is to our civilization today. All right, to Western civilizations, we may not have any idea of what a democracy is if it wasn't for some of the things that he introduced back in around 500 BC. I'll leave this slide up for another 10-15 seconds for those of you that are a little slow copying down notes. Please don't forget to highlight everything that's been underlined. All right, understand that Cleisthenes takes power. He introduced this new form of democracy, new form of government called democracy. Know that he created a council of 500 citizens. All right, these citizens could be rich or poor, and know what type of individuals in Athens that were considered non-citizens. All right, women, foreign-born men, and slaves. All right, the democracy that existed in Athens was a little different than the democracy that exists in the United States today. The democracy that we have is a representative democracy, right? Meaning that citizens choose a smaller group of people to make laws and government decisions on their behalf. One day, as citizens, all of you will elect people to make laws and government decisions on your behalf. Maybe one of you will one day run for one of those positions and will be elected. Great. All right. In Athens, democracy is known as a direct democracy, meaning that people would gather at mass meetings to decide on government matters. All right. Every citizen was allowed to attend these meetings. Now, in Athens, there was at a point 30,000 citizens. 30,000 citizens did not go to meetings. Maybe in the assembly in Athens, in the Agora, there would be space for about 6,000 people. So anywhere from 6,000 to 2,000, give or take, what's going on. There were a lot of citizens that would attend these meetings. All right, a lot of citizens. Everyone was invited. Now, that's very different to our democracy because not every citizen is allowed into the Capitol building to vote on a law that's being presented to Congress or to the Senate or to the House. That would take forever. In Athens, meetings were held about every 10 days. They would be in the agora. In Athens, women were not allowed in the agora. Only men were allowed in the agora because that's where they would debate public issues. They would also education and learning developed in the agora. At these meetings, the assembly would pass laws. They would choose officials to either serve on jury, to become magistrates, which is a powerful position in Athens. All right, there were 10 magistrates that would be chosen, and they basically carried out the assembly's laws and policies. Some of them were generals in the military, and they would also, at meetings, make decisions on war, all right, and foreign affairs as well. The 10 officials that would carry out the assembly's laws and policies and kind of regulate, who speaks at the meetings, when they speak, how much time they have. Right? There were 10 officials, and they were known as magistrates. They were kind of like the leaders of the assembly, all right, in Athens. All right. Make sure you know what a direct democracy is. All right. Know that it basically allows every citizen, all right, to decide on government matters. We have a representative democracy, which is a little different. All right. I'll leave this up for about another 10 seconds or so for those of you that are slow writers to copy this down. All right. This is the last slide we're going to take today. Not too many notes today. In a little bit, you're going to get a worksheet. Make sure you finish that worksheet for homework tonight. If you don't finish it in class, we'll check it tomorrow. We'll go over it. Do not forget to study for your quiz tomorrow. All right. It's on Chapter 6, Section 2 and 3 notes, but only going up to Sparta. Everything we did today is not on the quiz. All right. Things we covered today are not on the quiz. Alrighty? Thank you. Have a great day.